Hey guys, I've beaten the evil within the other day. That was a pain. Well, at least thanks to the fact I've postponed playing it for a week or so. The last 1/3 of the game I've played after the patch that fixed a lot of the port issues. Before the patch, it was a nightmare. Black bars on top and bottom of the screen, fixed 30 FPS that had to be removed using console commands every time you start the game, and resulted in the camera being way too close to the character, like you're trying to molest him. All of that was solved though. You can remove black bars and cap your game at 60 now in the options menu. However, the game still performs like ass. If I could easily get 120 FPS in Alien Isolation, the Evil Within barely gets up to 60, and it still crashes once in a while. Recording it before the patch was frustrating as hell, as the game crashed every hour or so. As a result, I only have footage of the first and the last 3.5 hours of the game, with a lot of annoying parts left out, but I will talk about them regardless. I was actually really looking forward to this game. It looked interesting out of context, and Shinji Mikami is not a bad director. He hasn't done anything scary, but Resident Evil 4 is a lot of fun. I've actually beaten the newest version of it a couple of months back to prepare for the Evil Within. However, opposite of Resident Evil 4, which is a comedy action game more than anything else, the Evil Within is advertised as a pure survival horror experience or something along those lines. It is not. Shinji, I've got a tip for you. If you're making a pure survival horror, don't include this into your game. Yep, and the game is full of that. At some point you storm a monastery killing dozens of enemies, at another take part in a car chase when a giant monster is chasing you. That's not horror, it's just a third-person shooter with shitty controls and monsters in it, that smears blood and gore on the walls and stops once in a while for a stealth section. Actually, the game has so many problems in its every department, it seems Shinji was trying so hard to make a horror game he lost sight of what he was making in the first place. As I usually do, let's start with the story and the characters. There is not a single interesting character in the game. Even worse, there is not a single character that has any distinctive traits. The main guy is Spanish Dirty Harry that lost his child and now drinks a lot, and that's basically it. Then his partner is an Asian guy in glasses, and I have to stop here. Then there's a woman with them who is a secret agent or something, but that is as far as you get. The antagonists are two mad scientists, number 3041 and 4257. You all know them. One is brilliant but insane, the other steals his research to get credit and then dies at some point. The main one, Ruvik, is so fucking badly written it blows my mind, and the game is centered around him, literally speaking. The whole game goes on in his mind, and yeah, exploring the mind of the psychopath is a noble cause. If your psychopath is not an androgynous anime villain who reminds me of Sephiroth for some reason. His backstory is nonsense. He was experimenting on humans when he was a child, but then a terrible thing happened, so he continued experimenting on humans, so he was evil and became slightly more evil and a lot more uglier. Fucking amazing! The fact that this whole thing is basically not real and goes on in a twisted mind gave the devs an excuse to throw all subtlety and continuity out of the window, making the game just a succession of horror tropes and Resident Evil cliches. We got the mad villagers, the monastery, the hospital, the sewers, the caves, etc. That you shift between with no explanation, just when Shinji wills it. It is basically everything that you have already seen before, like the ring girl that grew multiple arms for some reason, or Pyramid Head who got his head reshaped into a box. You can call that a tribute to classic horror, I call that lazy and boring. What's worse, making scary things not scary, and it becomes even less scary when you reuse your unoriginal designs over and over again. The ring girl is there multiple times, the box fad, he's there all the fucking time, and even the chainsaw guy from Resident Evil 4 makes a comeback several times. All of that in gimmicky boss fights when most bosses in the game have an ability to one-shot you and throw you back to the checkpoint. By the way, speaking of bosses, the final boss is just laughable. No, really, I actually laughed. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it is a giant flash thing that you first shoot with a machine gun turret and then with a rocket turret. That's it. It's the easiest fight in the game. Killing an average mob requires more skill, cause at least you can move during the fight, not just press a button. Most other bosses are just frustrating to fight, as I said before. Killing simple enemies, though, is kinda fun, I have to admit. It is when the game reminds me of Resident Evil 4 the most, and it would be even more fun if the ammo wasn't so scarce. The ammo distribution was designed for a horror game, where you hide from monsters and engage in combat only when you have to, like in recent Alien Isolation. Here, at some points of the game, you have waves after waves of enemies ambushing you, and still all you get is upgrade material. That is mostly useless, cause all you need is a couple of points into critical hits and more ammo. Imagine playing Doom and only having like 10 ammo for a gun at a time. It just becomes an exercise in frustration. The funniest thing for me was the fact that throughout the game I have only found 3 bullets for Magnum. 3! There were 6 inside of it when I found the gun itself, but after that only 3 bullets. No more, no less. Among bad design decisions of The Evil Within, one holds a special place in my heart. I've already mentioned the out-of-place stealth that is there only cause Amnesia formula is so popular, the awful ammo distribution, repetitive, gimmicky, one-shot you are dead boss fights, reused Resident Evil tropes. But Rubik in Chapter 9 gets the prize for the worst design idea in this whole shitstorm. You see, whenever you enter a part of the mansion for the first time, the villain appears, chases you and one-shots you with what literally is a Vulcan nerve pinch. I'm not even joking right now, it kills the pacing entirely, turning the game into a Benny Hill show on a flight of stairs. And I didn't know while I was playing that he only appears when you enter certain parts of the mansion, so after he murdered me a couple of times, I just had to safe scam my way through the area. I think the last time I did it in a horror game was when I was scared shitless of Silent Hill 1 at the age of 11. What a fucking throwback to old school horror that was! What also frustrated me is the ending. It is such a blatant sequel bait. Nothing was explained, no storyline ended, no character has developed in the slightest. The only reason I wanted to beat this game is to get some sort of explanation and closure. There was none of that. There was zero meaning to everything that happened. You are not even told what exactly happens. The whole game goes, you enter a hospital, horror, blood, gore, horror and slightly more horror, you escape, the end. As a result, I, much like the protagonist, achieved nothing, learned nothing, but just wasted several hours of my life. Thanks, Shinji Mikami. Overall, if we consider The Evil Within an off-brand Resident Evil, and that it totally is, I would say it is definitely worse than Resident Evil 4, but better than 5 and 6. But even Explosive Diary is better than Resident Evil 6, so not much of an achievement there. But yeah, if you enjoy Resident Evil 4, The Evil Within is worth getting with a 50-75% off, otherwise cannot recommend. The people who say The Evil Within combines Resident Evil and Silent Hill, it is not. It is Resident Evil that takes part in every possible setting that Japan considers to be horrifying. It's not psychological and not atmospheric. It cannot be, cause set pieces change so frequently and randomly, it's so hard to get immersed. It is just a third-person shooter with slightly more gore and no mindless fun, so get it at your own risk. Thanks for watching guys, the name is GrrrVahrrr and I shall see you from within my next video.